All right, hey everybody. Welcome to your last marketing class before we break for the fall and then kind of reconvene in about 2 weeks. So today we're gonna finish up our kind of section on marketing strategy, which is kind of our, sort of broad overview of your initial strategic choices that you have to make in the marketing process. After the break, we'll start in on the 4Ps. So we'll be covering each of, price, product, promotion, and place in detail. Once again, unfortunately, I can't do live transcription because Zoom has still not fixed this bug where it will cause the meeting to crash after a half hour or so. So I do apologize, but yeah, no live transcription. So before we get into the contents of the lecture today, next class is going to be the midterm. So the instead of having a class from 1:10 until 3 p.m., that time slot will be the midterm. So I'll be on Zoom. You guys will all join on Zoom, and you can kind of ask me questions or anything like that in chat. What's the midterm going to look like? It's going to be about 70% multiple choice and then 30% short answer. Okay. So I will post on Quarkus some example multiple choice questions for you guys and short answer questions so that you can see what kind of questions you could be asked. Yeah, and I'll post a midterm from a past year as well, so you can practice. It's only going to cover lecture material. So anything that's in the textbook that's not in the lecture slides or that I didn't say in lecture will not be tested. Okay. So also the way the test is going to go, it's not going to be like a Quarkus quiz. So it's just going to be a PDF that you download from Quarkus. So you can kind of do the questions in whatever order you like. And the way that you will submit will be kind of a Word document that you fill out with your multiple choice answers and with your short answer responses. Okay. And so there's a typo there. It says the lecture scheduled for October 20th, should say 21st. So the lecture scheduled for 2 weeks from now will be posted online as an asynchronous seminar. So it'll probably be a little bit shorter than usual. There will still be a survey that you need to fill out, right? One of our marketing surveys that I'll discuss during the lecture. But the content of that lecture will not be testable. So today's class is the last testable content that you'll have. Can you use an iPad to do the test? I guess if you're comfortable typing on an iPad, you will be kind of doing some typing to write your short answer responses. Then yes, or I guess if you're planning to use some kind of stylus, that would be another option. As long as it's legible and you submit it in either a .doc or .pdf format, it's fine. Whatever you want to use is fine. So I'll keep some time at the end of the lecture if there's any more questions about the midterm. And will the number of words that needs to be written for short answers be mentioned? There won't be a recommended number of words. These aren't going to be kind of essay style questions. They're just going to be short written answers. Yeah, typically if you can use fewer words to communicate what you're trying to say, that's always better. But there's no minimum or maximum. For short answers, yeah, bullet points are fine. And in terms of questions, there'll probably be between 30 and 40 multiple choice questions, and then probably like 3 or 4 short answer questions. The short answers will be pick 3 out of 4 or something like that. Yeah, so you should be thinking when you're writing the test, budgeting about 1 minute for every mark on the test. It'll be 100 marks. And then that'll leave you also a little bit of time to check your answers at the end. Okay, awesome. All right, so let's get into segmentation, targeting, and positioning. And any other questions about the midterm I can handle during break or at the end of class. So I'm going to show you guys a few descriptions of products, and I'll ask you sort of what kind of product do you think the description is referring to? Okay, so here is some marketing language from one product. It says undertones, white floral jasmine with a hint of woody amber. All right, okay, so this one sounds like, yeah, maybe perfume, maybe tea, right? Like jasmine tea. Yeah, so something with a sort of a strong aroma. Okay, here's the next one. From nesting to crawling and beyond, you're covered at every stage. From nesting to crawling and beyond, you're covered at every stage. And it's got kind of this cute font. Yeah, something for babies, maybe, right? Baby food, baby crib. Right, because why babies? Well, babies crawl. And what about this one? Tough for less. Tough for less. And maybe gym, fitness. Yeah, something about like getting tough, right? Okay, yeah, so maybe fitness. All right, two more. Here's another one. Stay colorful. Stay colorful. Color pencil, clothing, cloth, paint. Yeah, something again where color is kind of the main attribute of the product. And then here's one, the last one. It's the amazing clean that you love. Housekeeper, cleaning, yeah. Yeah, so here we have these 5 different descriptions, and they're all the same products. So they're all laundry detergents. Starting from the one on the left to the one on the right. So Gain, that's the one with the smells. Dreft is the one where it's describing kind of the baby. Then we have Tough for Less, the clean you love, and Stay colorful, right? So, okay, we have these 5 different laundry detergents. These are for washing clothes. So you put these into your washing machine with your dirty clothes, and then it runs and your clothes should be clean. So the question is, should these brands be considered competitors? So yes, right? And why do we say yes? Well, because they're all competing for the same market, right? Which is laundry detergent, people who need laundry detergent. So Aryan says, yeah, on a large scale. And maybe in what sense should they not be considered competitors? How are they kind of different from each other? Yeah, so the brands are different, the color is different, maybe the focus or smell is different. So each brand kind of seems to be marketed to a different target customer based on those descriptions that we saw in the advertising, right? So for instance, with Gain, this is the one where it was describing the scent. It says, your nose and clothes will thank you. And it describes the smells that you kind of have when you use this soap. So from whoever makes Gain's perspective, from the company that produces Gain, in their mind, their target customer is someone who wants a laundry detergent that does what, right? They want their clothes to be clean, but also, yeah, maybe smells good, right? So someone who also cares about the smell quite strongly. And what about this one? Dreft. So for this company, they're thinking, okay, you want clean clothes, but also you want a laundry detergent that, yeah, maybe not too harsh, safe for the baby, right? So it'll feel soft for a baby, right? So when we compare these first two, right, it's true that these are both laundry detergents. They both fulfill the same primary need, but kind of the types of people who might want this one versus this one are a little bit different, right? And we can see that they're different in an observable way, right? These people have a baby probably, and these people might not. What about this one? Tough for less. For this company, who is their ideal target customer? Yeah, so we kind of see two things here, right? Like low price, so value. So someone who wants good value, and then like a stronger clean. So maybe like a worker in a factory, someone who needs who gets really dirty with their clothes, and who really needs them to sort of needs a detergent that can tackle a really tough stain, right? So their target customer wants a laundry detergent that can really get rid of stains, right? Stronger and effective. If we're thinking about this as kind of someone who works in a manual job, again, that's something kind of observable that a company could say, okay, you seem to be working a manual job, this detergent is for you. What about this one? Stay colorful. What does the target customer look like for this brand? Yeah, someone who wants to protect their clothing colors. So someone who's wearing a lot of bright colors and doesn't want them to fade, right? So potentially a fashion conscious person, someone who, really cares about the way that their clothing looks. So for this person, again, this is definitely a group of customers. We can probably say that there's customers out there who care about making sure the colors of their clothes stay bright. But this one's a little bit harder because, we can't see just from sort of data collected by the government, are you someone who likes to have their clothes stay bright or not, right? Not in the same way that we can see, do you have a baby or not, right? So that's one segment. And then the final detergent, we have the Amazing Clean You Love, this Tide. And what does this target customer look like? Smells good, family, for everyone. Yeah, kind of just like anyone who likes clean clothes, anyone who just wants something that will work, right? Existing customers, maybe. Yeah. So should these brands be considered competitors? Perhaps, right? They're all trying to sell detergent. But they're different in the sense that each one is kind of marketed to a different segment of consumers. And consumers who really focus on, say, their baby and washing clothes that are safe for the baby might not want to look at the one that preserves color, right? So they're marketed to different target customers. So depending on if those groups of customers kind of overlap, maybe they are competitors, right? So how are they the same? Well, they're all owned by the same company. So Procter & Gamble is a large company that makes a lot of consumer products in North America. And they have 8 brands of laundry detergent. So we saw 5 of them. So they have 3 others in addition to the 5 I showed you. And kind of doesn't stop with laundry detergent. They have, when it comes to making soap for your hands, they have 5 different brands. When it comes to making diapers for babies, they even have 2 different brands, okay? So Procter & Gamble has over 24 brands that sell at least $1 billion each year. These are some of them. Okay? And they sell a ton of other products, batteries, pet food. You can see in the background of this slide a lot of the products that they own and sell. Okay. So when we think about Procter & Gamble, it's a big company, it's sophisticated. They clearly made a choice to have 8 brands of laundry detergent. The question is, why do they have 8 different brands, right? And we kind of answered that in the sense that each brand seems to be doing something different in terms of the secondary needs that it satisfies for different groups of customers, right? They all clean, but they each have a different focus, right? So each segment kind of receives their own brand, okay? Maybe a deeper question is, why stop at 8, right? they sell 8 brands. Why not 10 brands or 20 brands, right? For instance, in the examples that we saw, there wasn't really a brand that was like for students, right? There was no laundry detergent that was like, you know, for students on the go, this is the laundry detergent that you should use, right? Why not? Why do you think that they stopped at 8? Hahan says they've covered the main part. So perhaps these 8 are enough to cover most people. It's not going to be perfect for everyone, but most people will find one that's fairly close to what they like. Tiancheng says too many choices. Yeah, so it could be choice overload, right? Like we saw last lecture. And Jeremy, target market is too small, it's too specific. So perhaps when you're thinking about a segment, you can't think about one that's too small. Otherwise, it's just not worth it, right? It costs money to develop a new brand. So we'll talk more later in the lecture about what a good segmentation strategy looks like in terms of sort of how you should draw the boundaries for the different segments. But the segmentation of customers into different groups is part of a larger process. It's part of segmentation, targeting, positioning, and differentiation. So in terms of our overall marketing process, we're around here, design a customer-driven marketing strategy. When many marketing managers describe a marketing strategy, segmentation, targeting, and positioning is what they're talking about, okay? So segmentation, targeting, and positioning, why do we do it? So the segmentation part seems clear. We can sort of divide people up into different groups, and that might be useful in terms of tailoring products to them or tailoring specific brands to each segment. But it's not just changing the products, right? Once we've kind of picked our segments, we might want to change all sorts of things like particular price for a certain segment or sell in a particular spot to reach a certain segment or things like that. So SDP and D, when you do your segmentation, it kind of naturally will lead into setting your 4 Ps, which we'll talk about after the break, okay? Right, the idea is with segmentation and targeting, you're answering who do you want to serve, okay? Who are the customers that we are creating value for, right? So we segment, we divide the total market, all customers into small groups based on some kind of observable characteristic or based on some important benefit, or we'll see a bunch of different ways to segment. And then given the segments you've created, you decide which segment or which of multiple segments you want to serve, okay? Segmentation and targeting says, who are we creating value for, right? Note that with segmentation and targeting, we're only thinking about the customer side, right? We're kind of ignoring our competitors for now, and we're dividing up the groups of customers into these measurable segments. Positioning and differentiation. So what are those? Those are differentiating the market offering to create value, and then positioning the market offering in the minds of target customers, right? So this is how do we create value? So we have who do we create value for, and how are we doing it? And the how stage, differentiation and positioning, this is where we're thinking about our competitors. So when we say differentiate the market offering to create superior value, we're saying differentiate the offering relative to our competitors, right? So we're trying to serve a particular segment, but other companies are also trying to serve that segment. So differentiation means we are kind of setting our product apart from the other products, showing that it's different or creates value differently or better in some way, okay? So we'll spend the rest of today looking at each of these steps in more detail. Okay, so we'll start with segmentation. So segmentation, to reiterate, we're dividing the consumer market into distinct groups of buyers who have different wants or needs. Maybe they have different traits or behaviors, and who might require separate products or separate marketing programs. So different sets of 4Ps to serve them best. And like I said, we're dividing the consumer market. So we're focusing on potential buyers of our product, not on competing suppliers. Okay. And why do we segment? Well, because different customers, they might want different products. They might be willing to pay different prices. They may shop in different places. And they may respond differently to different promotions. So in essence, a distinct group of consumers who responds in a similar way to a given set of marketing mix elements, marketing mix is the 4Ps, that's called a marketing segment or a market segment, right? So if it's a group of customers who responds in a particular way to, say, prices or to promotions, that's a market segment. Jeremy says, wouldn't it be valuable to look at competitors to see who they're serving and how they have segmented the market? I think that that's definitely valuable. I do think that it's often the case that you want to segment your customers first and see kind of what you think is the most important. Then you kind of look at your competitors and you'll see kind of who they're serving and what they think is important. And then you can go back and change. You can kind of reanalyze your segmentation if you feel like you missed something important. But I think starting from just your product is the best way to think about it. Otherwise, you'll get too focused on what the other companies are doing, and you'll be in sort of a situation where you might not have the most original thinking. So here is an example of some famous brands. And in Canada, when you kind of go to shop at one of these brands, one of these fast food restaurants, this is what you see. And when you go to the US, this is what you see. Right? Slightly different logos. In Canada, once you notice this, you start seeing it everywhere. Brands love to put a little maple leaf in the logo, right? So why do you think that these companies do this? Why do they put a little maple leaf in the logo for their Canadian stores? Sorry, it says people love to consume local. Yeah, so maybe people like to feel like they're consuming a Canadian product when they're in Canada. Makes you feel related to. Yeah. Is there anything different about the products that, say, McDonald's sells in Canada versus the United States? Yeah, so they should be quite similar, right? So you can get a Big Mac in both countries. You can get a McFlurry in both countries. So it's very, very similar. So they're really not changing much other than the logo, right? But changing the logo is kind of a subtle thing to do. An example of very subtle geographic segmentation. So geographic segmentation is a way of dividing the market. And for geographic segmentation, we divide the market into geographical units such as countries or larger regions, say like the European Union or North America, or you can divide into provinces, counties, cities, neighborhoods, as long as it's sort of a geographic division, like we saw with the brands and their different logos, right? Geographic segmentation doesn't always have to be very subtle. So when we look at newspapers, these are all newspapers in the bottom right, we can see that the name of cities appears pretty prominently. So Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver. So each city has its own newspaper. All of these brands are owned by the same company, and the company has created different brands for different cities, right? And in this case, we do think that the products are probably different across these different cities, right? Probably because people like local news about Vancouver if you live in Vancouver, but you don't really care about what's going on in Edmonton, right? So geographic segmentation is a way of segmenting, and we just saw like a little preview of what can change across segments. It doesn't have to be much, or it can be the entire product. The next type of segmentation is behavioral segmentation. So behavioral segmentation divides buyers into groups based on their knowledge, their attitudes, how they use the product, how they respond to the product. Behavioral segmentation is extremely important, and we see it everywhere in modern marketing. So the first type of segmentation, occasions. This is when buyers get the idea to buy, or they actually buy or use the product. Now, this sounds like, okay, is this really that important? So when you get the idea to buy a product, what would you typically do, right? When you think, I could use a new pair of headphones. What's typically the first step that you'll take? Yeah, search, Google. And what happens when you Google headphones? You'll see some results, and a lot of those will be advertisements. And then you'll see advertisements following you around the internet, right? So what's happening there? The company is segmenting you based on the fact that you seem to have the idea that you want to start buying headphones, right? That's a segment that they can observe and that they target with promotions, right? You get the ads, whereas someone who isn't searching for headphones does not get the ads, right? So this type of segmentation is everywhere online, right? When people get the idea to buy, like it appears immediately, okay? Benefits is also another important form of behavioral segmentation. So benefits depends on different customers or different consumers may get different value from the same product. For instance, we saw with Toyota that there were a ton of different advertisements, right? Some of them seem to be pushing that it's a very safe car, a very safe brand. Some of them seem to be pushing that it's a way to sort of have fun with your family. These are two kind of different benefits, potentially appealing to two different groups of people, right? So with benefit segmentation, we often see kind of the same product being shown in different ways to different groups, okay? User status, right? So are you a non-user? Are you an ex-user? Are you a first-time user? Again, extremely important with big data and with kind of digital advertising, right? If you've never used an app before, the first time you download it, you're going to enter in your email and all this stuff, and you will keep getting emails or you'll keep getting notifications. And even if you delete the app, they'll keep sending you notifications, right? So if you're an ex-user, they're going to start advertising to you, hey, like, can you re-download the app? Like, we have all these deals for you, right? So user status is something that we can monitor very closely and segment people based on that. Usage rate, are you a light, medium, or heavy user? So how much of the product are you using? And then loyalty status, kind of, do you have a loyalty program with the brand or with the store? People who have loyalty cards typically get better offers, right? So yeah, behavioral segmentation. So the kind of occasions based or behavioral retargeting in more modern kind of digital marketing is when you have the idea to buy, that's when you get segmented, right? After you've made your search. Okay. With benefit-based segmentation, right? So this brand Tums, does anyone know actually what Tums is? You can type in chat. What is Tums? Anti-heartburn. Yeah, exactly. So if you eat something that makes your kind of stomach upset, that brings acid up, Tums will help settle your stomach, help you digest. Right? So when we say what are the different benefits of Tums, yeah, if you have food that causes heartburn, then you can take Tums and it will settle the heartburn, right? Are there any other benefits of Tums? Maybe it tastes like candy. Yeah, so just like it's a fun snack. Um, I haven't seen that one. Could be out there. But here, Tums has a lot of calcium in it. So for people who care about maintaining their bones, potentially older people and who are already familiar with the Tums brand, this is a benefit that they might see, right? So the laundry detergent brands also could be considered benefit-based behavioral segmentation, right? So there we saw different brands providing different secondary benefits. But like I said, it doesn't have to be different brands offering different benefits. It can be the same product offering different benefits to different segments. Okay. Let's take a look at another product. So here we have on the right a promo for a CIBC, opening a CIBC bank account. Okay. So when you open your first checking account with CIBC, they tell you we'll give you $300 plus no monthly fee for 1 year, unlimited transactions. And if you keep a balance of $4,000 in your account, then you won't pay any monthly fee as long as you keep that $4,000 in the account. Okay. What kind of segmentation is CIBC doing here? Good. So definitely user status, right? How do we see user status? First-time users get a benefit, which is not available to people who already have an account with CIBC. So I wouldn't say that this is loyalty. I would say that this is user status. Anything else? Yeah, so daily balance. What is the daily balance? What kind of segmentation is that? If you have it a lot, yeah, usage rate. If you have a lot of money in it, then you pay less to use it, right? The more money you have, the cheaper it is to be using this account. That's a classic usage rate segmentation style, right? So CIBC isn't the only one who does this kind of segmentation. Almost any bank will give you this sort of promotional offers, and every bank will do this offer where if you keep a lot of money with them, you don't have to pay a monthly fee, right? So it's extremely common to be seeing this kind of segmentation. Okay. So here we have 3 products. They're all types of chewing gum. We can see these products are probably intended for different people, but what are the different market segments here? Who do we think is consuming each of these different products? Yeah, age, I think. I think in the top left, we have something that's definitely for kids. And then in the bottom right, we see a gum that's advertised as not sticking to dental work, which is probably for older people, right? So we had geographic, we had behavioral. This is an example of demographic, right? Something different. We're going to divide the market into groups based on demographic variables that we can observe. Things like age, gender, family size, language, race, religion. These are all very easy to see in the data. You can easily go to any statistical agency in, say, Canada or the US and look at a zip code and see, okay, what's the makeup of people in terms of their income or their religion or not religion, but income or language at a very fine level, okay? Disadvantages that customers may feel pigeonholed. I'll come back to that in a second. Demographic segmentation is something we see quite frequently. So here we have a YouTube channel, Minute Earth, fairly large number of subscribers, 2.6 million. And yeah, you can see their primary channel up in the top left. And then down here, you can see that they have other channels aimed at people who have different languages, right? So bottom left, we see, Minute Earth for people who speak Spanish, right? You'll see that none of these have as many subscribers as the Minute Earth main channel in English. And some of them have almost no subscribers, right? So if you go to those channels, you probably expect to see almost no videos, right? They're not going to spend time making products for only a very few number of subscribers, okay? But we do see segmentation even in something like YouTube. Okay, so another example of age-based demographic segmentation, we can see here with GoTrain passes or GoTrain tickets, adults for a single day or a single ride, they pay $7.90. And for a day pass, they spend $15.80. But for a senior, you only spend $3.95 for single and then $7.90 for a day pass. So it's half the price. So this is definitely age-based demographic segmentation, right? And here we're not changing the product like we had with gum. We're giving them the same product, but at a different price, right? And why do we charge different prices to different age groups? Different willingness to pay, right? Seniors and children have less money to spend, or we're just trying to be fair and encourage mobility for people who might not have a car or be able to drive a car, right? Is there any other kind of segmentation that we see here? We have single ride and day pass. So there's age across adult, student, and senior. Yeah, usage as well, right? Day pass, if you're using it a lot in a day, well, if you're using it kind of more than twice in a day, then you're paying less per ride if you buy the day pass, right? And you see that in a lot of places, even within Presto again, if you're taking a certain number of trips per month, the cost per trip is low or it's high for the first trips, but then once you reach a certain point, the trips become cheaper and cheaper, okay? So usage and demographics at the same time for the same product. Okay. Here we have famous company, Coca-Cola, and they introduced this new product in their lineup, Diet Coke. So why was that? So why did Coca-Cola, which is already a well-recognized brand, introduce this Diet Coke as an option? Yeah, it's right there in the title, maybe for people on a diet, health conscious, right? Diet Coke has 0 calories. Coca-Cola has, well, you can see here 140 calories. So yeah, maybe for people who are health conscious and prefer less sugar, right? And those are different market segments, right? Okay. So here's Diet Coke, and then more recently, Coke introduces Coke Zero, right? So Diet Coke looks like this when you look at the ingredients. So you have carbonated water, color, aspartame, acid, and Coke Zero looks like this in the ingredients. You have carbonated water, color, acid, aspartame, okay? Basically the same exact ingredients, right? So why did Coca-Cola introduce Coke Zero? Right? If we already have a product that targets health conscious people who want 0 calories, why introduce another one? Maybe people who don't like the taste of Diet Coke. Yeah, so the tastes are slightly different. Super health conscious people. So people who, yeah, just feel like the word 0 is what's going to sell them. Feels different, offers more choices. Would you believe me if I told you that before Coke Zero came along, men didn't really drink 0 calorie Cokes. They didn't drink Diet Coke. So here we have kind of a Harvard Business Review article making that argument. For years, Coca-Cola tried to get men to consume Diet Coke, which was very popular among women, 0 calorie cola, but they failed. And so they introduced 0 calorie Coke Zero, which is in a black can, and they kind of gave it this more stereotypically masculine advertising strategy. And men didn't like Diet Coke, but they loved Coke Zero. So here we see an example of a gender-based demographic segmentation, but it's very subtle, right? We don't even really see that it's going on. But this was kind of Coke's strategy in order to expand its sales of 0 calorie beverages. And this kind of worked, right? No one says, oh, Coke Zero feels like they're just trying to sell Coke for men or Diet Coke for men. And that makes me feel like, I'm being stereotyped. No, it was kind of more subtle versus something like this. Which is a pen, but for women, right? Which is, crazy. So there's nothing about a pen that's sort of for men or for women. But here, this company, BIC, decided to create a pen that's marketed exclusively for women. And it didn't really work out for them. So you can't buy these anymore. Essentially, people felt like that it was kind of, they were being stereotyped. That there's nothing really different about these pens versus the other pens. So why are they kind of bothering to introduce it? Okay. So why did Coke Zero work, but this product failed, right? You can't be pigeonholing a consumer. And that's what that word I used before, and I said I'd come back to. Pigeonholing means you're kind of stereotyping someone, right? You're saying stereotypically women like this, so I'm going to make a product like that and say this is a product for women. Okay. So those demographic segmentation examples. Here, I took a screen cap of what's kind of trending on Netflix, right? So these are all Netflix shows. Okay. And we can see that there's different products. Each of these TV series is a different product, right? And maybe these are intended for different segments, but can we say what kind of segmentation is going on here? If these products are intended for different people, what differentiates those groups of people? Han says psychological preference. Good, yeah, preference. What is preference? Yeah, maybe perhaps a bit of age, right? If there's cartoons versus shows that are not cartoons, you can see maybe kids versus adults. Steve says different people like different stuff. Perfect. Different people like different stuff. Some people are going to like Seinfeld. Some people are going to like Squid Game. Is there some kind of demographic or behavioral thing going on there? No, not necessarily. Two people can basically look exactly the same demographically, but have very, very different tastes, right? This is an example of psychographic segmentation, where we divide the market into groups based on things like social class or your lifestyle choices or your personality characteristics. And one of the most important personality characteristics is personal taste, right? What kind of stuff do you like, right? Like I said, you can have two people who look very, very similar, like two people, 22-year-old women, certain background, but one of them, would really like Seinfeld and one of them would really like Squid Game, right? There's nothing about the demographics that predicts people's tastes typically. So there's a lot of variation left after we control for things that we can observe. And we call those kind of different variations psychographic segments. Good psychographic segmentation is really hard to do. You typically need a lot of data to do it. And psychographic segmentation, in particular, sort of personal taste-based segmentation, the line between personal taste-based segmentation and benefits can sometimes be a bit fuzzy. It can be a little bit fuzzy. The benefits that I get from something, like if I really care about safety, that might be my personal taste versus, I really care about having a good time with my family. That's like my personal taste. So benefits versus psychographic personal taste can be a little bit fuzzy. So I'm never going to ask you to make like a sharp distinction. But they're both like representing this idea that personal preference, personal characteristics are really, really important for segmentation. So it's 1:57 right now. So I think we'll take a break now and then do the survey after the break and then finish up segmentation and finish up the rest of the lecture then. Okay, so it's 1:57. So yeah, we'll break until 2:07 and I'll stay in chat. All right, welcome back. Okay, see, there's some more stuff in chat. Why are personality characteristics not considered demographics? So personality characteristics and social class. So demographics are typically things we can observe and that we can kind of ask people about, like age. The government tracks your income on the census, where you live, what kind of housing you live in. So those are observable things, tend to be demographics. So let's have a little discussion about the survey responses. So I asked you guys to look at these two different brands that Sobeys offers, the Urban Fresh and the just regular Sobeys. So let's see. So you guys kind of mostly went for geographic, but then there was people kind of who provided responses in each of the categories. So starting with geographic, is Itza Jiang here? Itza looks like not here. Okay. All right, so another geographic. Let's see. Is Shan Sai here? Okay, yeah, so Shan, can you unmute and tell us why you chose geographic?
Hi.
Hi, we can hear you.
I think the urban fresh one is more like for people who like they need to work, and for the people who living in the place that they need to work and they don't have time to like go for the soul-based one to get fresh food, or for people living in requires higher living quality, and they more likely to consume for the fresh food. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. All right, thank you, Shan. So yeah, it looks like Haohan, your hand is up. Maybe you want to contribute here as well.
Oh yeah, hi Professor. Could you hear me?
Oh, yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, just like one thing I want to mention is when you Google the Sobeys, like the first thing you will see is they will told you in a busy urban centers discover fresh food items and meal solutions for shoppers. So like what I want to say is they mentioned first is the busy urban center. So like I think it's more geographic. And when you search it on Google Map, you will see obviously that their shops are in the center of Toronto, like not on Ottawa or like Mississauga. They are like in the very center of the Toronto. So I think that's more like geographic segmentation.
I completely agree. It looks like they're concentrating in the urban centers. Thank you, Ahen. But it's interesting that they're just in kind of like downtown Toronto, because we do have other urban centers, right? Like some Mississauga, and then even outside of Toronto, you have Hamilton, you have Ottawa, you have Kitchener. So, and you don't often see urban fresh there. So let me ask someone who chose behavioral. Let's see. Is Hani Chen here? Okay, Hani. All right, so someone who chose behavioral. Elin Liang. Okay, I'll just open it up then. So someone who chose behavioral. So I think behavioral is quite an interesting one. I think both Shanshan and Haohen said something about like usage. So usage of the product, right? So people who kind of don't have time. So potentially they're getting different benefits. So an Urban Fresh is potentially giving them benefits like they have more meals that are on the go, more prepackaged meals. So that's kind of what I found in my research. So I think the behavioral segmentation definitely speaks to that type of segmentation. People who are wanting hot prepared meals versus people who have time to make their own, right? Good. So then let me try to find a demographic person. Is Christina Wong here? No, Christina. I do see Christina, you're here. So maybe they're away from keyboard. Okay. Someone else who chose demographic. Hi, can everyone hear me? Yes, okay. Yeah, it looks like I had a bit of a speaker issue. So so I was looking for someone who chose demographic. So, okay, so Jeremy supplies some arguments here. You can say that age groups downtown are different from outside of downtown, like Mississauga. So maybe they're targeting, like younger people who tend to live in the urban center of Toronto. Some young people do tend to live in the urban center of Mississauga as well, and other urban centers. But I do agree that like they're definitely targeting younger people with this Urban Fresh style store. And so now lastly, psychographic.
Hi, sorry, Prof. Can I add some for the demographic?
Oh yeah, sure.
So the reason I think it's demographic is because like according to my research, like the price difference is pretty different. Like the prices are pretty different. Like Sobeys Urban Fresh, it's more high end. So I feel like they're targeting people who are like who in the urban cities with high income doing like the jobs, and like they have high income, so they're targeting high income group. So that's why I feel like it's demographic. And compared to Sobeys, the normal one, the prices are a bit low. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Yeah, because when it comes to kind of like concentrations of like high income earners, Toronto definitely has some of these other areas beaten out, right? Yeah, very good. So lastly, psychographic. So let's see. Is Severin here? Okay, what about Zishwen?
Yes, hi.
Hi, we can hear you.
So I'm choosing this one because I think there are not really a big difference between the product in a regular CB or CB's Uber Fresh, or there only a little difference. So in people choosing them, why choosing making choices between them is more like a personality. Yeah.
It's more like a personality difference.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, continue.
Yes, more like they prefer, like it's only their preference in this two. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I think that this was a very good analysis. One thing that you can think about, yeah, like looking on a map is a great idea. Very good to kind of take that look. I see some other hands up, but I'm gonna kind of keep the discussion moving so we have time for everything else in the lecture. One thing you can think about is like, this question is a little unfair because the segmentation is probably happening in a few different dimensions, right? For instance, if it was just about being in a city center, why not also Mississauga? And if it was just about age, why not where there's kind of a lot of young people in different parts of the country? So when we think about this segmentation strategy, often it'll be the case that the segmentation happens on a lot of dimensions at the same time. So when I did my research, I kind of found this article describing Urban Fresh. And the thing I like about this article is that it gives you a bunch of different descriptive phrases that correspond to different types of segmentation. And we can see all four kinds of segmentation here. So in terms of demographic, we can see here busy professionals living in small square footage is who Urban Fresh is supposed to appeal to. That's demographics, right? That's, your job and the kind of apartment you live in. Right? This idea of living though on like a grand scale, that's a lifestyle statement, right? So perhaps people who like to throw parties or people who are upwardly mobile, that's what it means, grand scale, and that's a psychographic segment. These are also people who shop daily, right? And that's behavioral, right? That's usage. How frequently are you going to shop? You're often buying small prepackaged things. And then lastly, of course, the geographic, all of them are dotted around high traffic areas. So places where there's a lot of foot traffic, where people are walking and can just kind of pick up small amounts of groceries at a time. Okay. Cool. So one kind of lesson that I want you to take from this analysis is that you should be able to describe your ideal customer in a way that tells me about the segments. So it doesn't have to be for the proposal due tomorrow, but definitely in the marketing plan. So for instance, with Sobeys, we can see that Urban Fresh is specifically for busy, high-income professionals with not a lot of space. They have no car or time to cook, but they have sophisticated tastes. That's a very clear statement about who the ideal customer is. And describing the ideal customer is a great way to start thinking hard about, is this a segment that's worth serving? And how would I serve this segment? Like what kind of prices and promotions would they respond to? So effective segmenting kind of has these 5 attributes. MASDA should be measurable. So it should be large enough, or you should be able to find it. You should be able to kind of see it. Should be accessible, that you can reach them. Should be substantial. They're a large enough segment that you can profitably serve them. Should be differentiable. If two segments are, if you've created 2 segments, but they respond in the same way to what you're doing, then it's pointless to have segmented. You might as well just combine them. And actionable, can you effectively market to them? Okay. So, here we have an example of a company, General Motors. They're a car manufacturer like Toyota, and they sell different types of cars, from high income luxury cars down to sort of more affordable cars. But over time, they added more and more brands to their portfolio. So as we go to the right, we're kind of proceeding forward in time until they reached a point at which they got rid of some of their brands, right? So they had more and more brands, and then they got rid of some. Okay? So they were segmenting, and then they reduced the number of segments, or at least the number of products And why did they do this? So here we can see on the left, you can see each of their 5 brands that they had when they were largest and when they had the most number of brands. And each of these gray bars corresponds to the price of the cheapest model for that brand, and then the price of the most expensive model for that brand. So the gray bar tells the entire price range for products within each brand. And on the left, you can see that these price ranges don't really overlap, that each of the different brands is kind of serving a different income segment. On the right, you can see that the brands really overlap in their prices, right? So all of these different brands are basically, many of them are serving basically exactly the same segments of consumers in terms of the income, right? It's just one graph. There's a limit to what we can conclude, but there's a sense in which they look over-segmented by the year 2000, okay? Which is an argument made by Harvard Business Review. So when we think about effective segmenting and what GM's failure was, we can think that their segments and their products were no longer differentiable, right? We had many different products serving essentially the same segment because they were all overlapping, right? So we weren't differentiating different products for different segments anymore. It was just kind of all products serving all segments, right? So no longer differentiable. And they ended up getting rid of some of their brands to sort of try to correct that problem. So that's segmentation. Once you've done your segmentation, you move on to targeting, right? You've identified the relevant market segments, and now what you want to do is evaluate each market segment's attractiveness in terms of, is it profitable to serve? And then you want to select which segments to enter. Okay. There's essentially 3 targeting strategies. So the first strategy is mass marketing, where you target the whole market with just one strategy or with just one offer. The second option is differentiated or segmented marketing. Here you're targeting several market segments, each with their own offer. And then lastly, you have niche marketing, where you're only pursuing one submarket, one segment, but you're going to try to get a large share of that segment. So visually, these strategies look like this. We have 3 different segments here as an example, right, that you've identified. And in the furthest left, we have an undifferentiated strategy where we serve all segments in the same way. Right? So why might you do this? You've done your segmentation. You've tried to, chop up the different groups of consumers into meaningful segments. But at the end of the day, maybe you don't have the budget, or maybe these segments aren't so different after all. And so you decide to market to all of them in the same way. Differentiated is each segment gets their own special market offering or marketing program. So we saw this with, Tide and a bunch of other examples we'll come back to. Concentrated is, you ignore the segments that are not the most profitable, and you just focus on a single segment. So, here's a few kind of like fun examples. Here's a company that only removes gum. So only removes chewing gum. So they don't do cleaning, they just remove gum. And here's a company that only sells to left-handed people. So if you're left-handed, they have a product for you, but for everyone else, they don't sell. Here's a company that sells a clock that is basically useless. It only tells you the day of the week. It doesn't tell you what time it is. And here's a company that markets only towards farmers, right? So online dating, but only if you're a farmer. Okay. All examples of niche marketing. So these examples, kind of pick them because they're fun, but also, these companies all have something in common. They're small. Niche marketing is typically best suited for smaller businesses that don't have the resources or the budget to serve all markets. Okay. There are some big companies. If you think about car brands like Rolls-Royce, they also are doing niche marketing. But these types of companies that are sort of fairly large and luxurious, like they're kind of rarer that they would focus on a single market, right? And you can think about a car company like, say, Porsche, which used to make only sports cars, but now makes SUVs and also makes sedans, right? So companies that are large and successful or that succeed in their niche sometimes tend to expand beyond it. Differentiated marketing, we saw it at the beginning of this lecture, all the different detergents, right? Different segments of consumers with different secondary needs get a different product. And we saw it earlier in the course, right? Different people with different secondary needs get a different brand. Okay. So this was one example of differentiated marketing where we've segmented the market and we give each one a different brand. But there's also even more finely distinguished segmentation. So within people who like Tide, right? Tide makes different products. So in the upper left, we have Tide that's in powder form. Upper right is standard in liquid form. And in the bottom, you have Tide Pods, right? So each of these is kind of a different product within the Tide brand for a different segment of consumers, right? So we have differentiated marketing within the brand. But it goes even finer than that, right? So for the exact same Tide laundry detergent bottle, some people will pay full price, and then other people will pay a discounted price. Some people pay, whatever's on the shelf, on the sticker, and then some people will have a coupon that they can use to get $3.25 off, right? So how does this represent differentiated marketing? It's kind of differentiated marketing within the same product. I'll ask you guys, what was the last time, or who used a coupon the last time you bought laundry detergent? Who used a coupon like this? So it looks like maybe no one used a coupon, right? So some people are using the coupon, right? So some people use it. They're a different segment than you guys, right? They're potentially people with a bit more time on their hands to spend looking for these kinds of deals, right? So you have coupon clippers is one segment, and then non-clippers is the other segment within the group of people who are interested in buying this Tide product. Okay, so we also have differentiated marketing to kind of an extreme level. Excuse me. We have differentiated marketing to kind of an extreme level where we tailor products and marketing programs to the needs and preferences of individual consumers, right? So at that point, our segments are individual people. And we can see this a lot with digital products where you get to basically customize your own product online, or customize the price that you want to pay, like with this auto insurance company. And of course, like we said, when you're kind of browsing the internet, data is being collected on your browsing history, and you'll be advertised to differently depending on your browsing history. Right? So you'll have a customized promotional campaign just for you. So when you're thinking about choosing a targeting strategy, the main consideration is typically company resources. If you're a small company, you're not able to do differentiated marketing, right? You can still do targeting, but it's niche. It's typically going to be a niche right? A concentrated targeting strategy. You're unable to target different segments with different plans. Product variability, right? So if you have a homogeneous product used only in one way, you'll probably use an undifferentiated strategy. If the market is very variable, then you may have a differentiated strategy. For instance, some products at certain times of year, there's a lot of demand. And then at other times of the year, there's almost no demand, right? Think about things related to Halloween or related to the holidays. These are all things that require a differentiated strategy. You also may want to care about your competitors' marketing strategies. And you may want to care about your product's life cycle, right? So once you've done your segmentation and targeting, you've answered the question of who. Who am I creating value for? The next things you want to do are positioning and differentiation, right? This is how do we create value for these people relative to our competitors. So positioning is arranging for a market offering to occupy a clear, distinctive, and desirable place relative to competing offerings in the minds of target customers. So the positioning strategy is kind of hand in hand with the value proposition, right? How you create the differentiated value for your target customers and kind of what positions you want your product to occupy relative to your competitors, right? Within the market segments that you're targeting. And by doing this correctly, you'll sort of differentiate your market offering and create customer value for your chosen segment relative to the competitors that the consumers could also be choosing from. So positioning analysis, after you've kind of segmented and targeted, so you've hopefully identified your target customer and their needs, then you want to identify your main competitors, right? So who are your main competitors who are trying to serve this segment or these segments? The next things you want to answer are, how is your brand or product similar to the competitors? That's going to be what's called a point of parity, right? So the point of parity is, we'll get into it more in the next slides, but it's how you're similar, what you do as a product that other companies also do with their products. Okay. Then you also have point of difference. How is the brand or product different from your competitors, right? What do you do that either kind of goes above and beyond or offers a special secondary benefit to your chosen segment? Okay. So a point of parity, this will typically involve shared brand associations. So what do all of these different brands do that's the same? Whereas points of difference, there'll be unique brand associations. So points of parity, for instance, for something like a smartphone, you'd say, all of these brands will allow you to browse the internet, download apps, message your friends. Points of difference, right? The unique brand associations of, say, Apple are, it's clean, it's a very high quality product, and it's an intuitive interface, so it's easy to use. Whereas for, say, an Android, the unique brand associations might be it's customizable and it's more flexible. Points of parity should communicate relevance. By that, I mean, why should a customer think that your product will satisfy their needs? So why is it relevant to include as part of their consideration set? And points of difference will communicate how it stands out. Essentially, points of parity are reasons, or they're saying there's no reason why you shouldn't buy this product. In other words, this product does what any product in this category would be expected to do, right? So it does what you hope it would do. The points of difference are, what does it do a little bit better, right? Why should you buy? So points of parity are, why should you have it in your consideration set in the first place? Points of difference are, why should you pick it as the one thing you choose from that consideration set? So let's take a look at a few examples. We'll start off with this coaster for Miller Lite, which is a beer. And what we can see on the coaster is it says, great taste, less filling. Okay. So when we look at this coaster, we want to identify, okay, this beer, what is its point of parity? Well, we're thinking, okay, the beer is in a category of other beers, right? All these sorts of beers are trying to serve this segment of consumers who, maybe they're thirsty and they want an alcoholic beverage, right? So what should a beer do? What is the point of parity for this beer compared to other beers? Perfect. Should taste good, right? It should taste good. If you're having this beverage, it should at least taste good. That's what you'd expect from any beer, right? Point of difference. What does this beer do better than the other beers? Less filling, exactly, right? So it's a light beer, so less calories, right? So it's a less filling beer. Okay, cool. Let's look at another example. So here we have another laundry detergent from the brand 7th Generation. And it says, removes tough stains and nurtures nature. Nurtures nature means that it's eco-friendly. Right? So what is our point of parity? So it's competing against other detergents. So what do we expect a detergent to do? Exactly, remove stains. It should make your clothes clean at the very least. And the point of difference then, it's eco-friendly, right? It nurtures nature, it's better for the environment. So removes tough stain, there's no reason why you shouldn't choose this, right? If you want your stains gone, this detergent will remove the stains. But if you also want to be eco-friendly, this product will be, of a special benefit for you. All right, here's a hand soap, method hand wash. And it says, you don't have to be antibacterial to be pro-clean. So we're in the space of hand soaps. So what should soaps do? And what does this soap say that it's going to do? Yeah, it's going to be clean, pro-clean. So it cleans your hands, right? So pro-clean. And what's the point of difference? What does this soap do that's different from other soaps? Is this soap antibacterial? Yeah, okay, so yeah, kind of skin friendly. Yeah, and this one's not antibacterial, right? So it doesn't sort of kill everything that's on your hands. So it's non-toxic, right? Not antibacterial. So that's kind of the idea for this one, right? Let's look at some more recent examples. So here's two companies. We have TikTok and then we have Bumble. So I've grabbed the kind of mission statements, the about us for each of these companies. I want you to take a look. It says TikTok is the leading destination for short form mobile video. Our mission is to inspire creativity and bring you joy. So that's TikTok. And then Bumble. So Bumble is a social network that allows you to feel empowered while you make relationship connections, whether you're dating, looking for friends, or growing your network. So let's take a look at Bumble and ask, do we have a point of parity and a point of difference? So who are Bumble's competitors, right? So this is an app that allows you to meet people. So other companies in kind of this meeting people space, right? So you have things like Tinder, or you have things like, other dating apps. And then you have things like Facebook that also allow you to sort of connect with people, right? So other social networks, right? So what is Bumble's point of parity and point of difference relative to the other companies operating in that space? So what's the point of parity? Social use. Yeah, social use. It allows you to be social, right? So making connections with people. Perfect, right? So you can connect with people on Bumble, just like with any kind of social network app. Okay, and what's the point of difference? What does Bumble claim that it does better or differently? Yeah, maybe feel empowered, right? So feel empowered while you make the connections. So maybe it sort of gives you more choice about who you connect with, right? So whatever that means. So that's for Bumble. So it's clear, like this is kind of right from their About Us page, that they do kind of have both a point of parity and a point of difference with other social networks. And now let's go back to TikTok. So this is also right from TikTok's About Us page, right? And they say it's the leading destination for short form mobile video. Our mission is to inspire creativity and bring joy. So first, before you do anything, before you start looking for POP and POD, what you want to ask is who else is operating in this space, right? Who are TikTok's competitors? Good, so maybe YouTube, maybe Instagram, right? Instagram Reels, just kind of like a relatively new feature, right? So do we see in this description that TikTok provides a point of parity and a point of difference? So point of parity, maybe inspire creativity, bring joy. Yeah, so short form mobile video. Short video, yeah, so maybe it's short videos, right? That's kind of the point of difference. Yeah, so I think this one's a bit harder, right? It kind of feels like if we had to say something, maybe point of parity would be that it's inspiring creativity and bringing joy, right? All of the platforms that are trying to entertain you are trying to, inspire you to create and bring joy. But the point of difference is maybe this is short form mobile video, right? So until Instagram Reels, there weren't really many kind of like short form video the way that TikTok does it. But I think that it's very hard here to see point of parity and point of difference. And I think it's interesting to think about why, right? Why is TikTok not pushing this sort of point of parity, point of difference, the way that, say, Bumble is? Could be because there's less competitors, right? So it doesn't need to differentiate itself as much. It used to be quite unique. Yeah, Sinyi says it came into the market first and is already dominant. So if you're already dominant, potentially you don't need to be using this point of parity, point of difference. Yeah, so I think that would be my thought, but I'm curious to hear if you guys have thoughts as well. You can feel free to type those in chat. When you choose a point of difference, here's a bunch of things that you should keep in mind. The two most important ones are kind of at the top, right? Do you actually deliver that desired and valued benefit. So your point of difference, are you actually able to deliver it, right? TikTok is actually able to deliver this sort of short form video. The safer hand wash is able to deliver that it's safer, right? So does it actually deliver, and is it distinctive, right? Does it actually differentiate you from your competitors? So one other tool to kind of summarize the positioning analysis is what's called a perceptual positioning map. So what we do here is we depict brands or products on two of their most important attributes. This is kind of like the next level beyond point of parity, point of difference analysis. So what we do here we have an example of luxury SUVs. Each of these different colors is a different luxury SUV. And you can see they've been plotted on a graph. On the x-axis of the graph, we see orientation. So vehicles that are more to the left are more luxury, and vehicles that are more to the right are more performance, right? So by performance, we mean like off-road performance. On the y-axis, we have just price. So we kind of have the cheaper ones towards the bottom, and then the more expensive ones towards the top. So here we have two different attributes, this orientation and the price. And then we also have these different brands plotted here, right? What this does is it provides a visual summary of positioning analysis. This will essentially reflect the position of each brand or product based on consumers' perceptions of that brand or product. The key thing when you're creating one of these maps is that the attributes should be informative. So they should kind of give you a spread of the companies over this map that you create. And they should be things that consumers care about, right? So these should be things that are actually valued by consumers. Right? So the point of doing a perceptual positioning map is to see where your competitors are in relation to your product on some dimensions that people care about, so that you can maybe change your product or figure out how to market your product better given where it sits relative to your competitors, right? So the perceptual positioning map is a tool, just like everything else we've learned, which is supposed to help you make better marketing decisions. So let's look at some examples. Here we have 5 or 6 clothing companies, and I've already ranked them from the highest price, which is J. Crew at the top, to the lowest price, which is H&M at the bottom. So I'm going to show you a few different perceptual positioning maps. Here, we're always going to have price on the y-axis, but that doesn't need to be the case. And we'll have an example in a few slides where it isn't price that's on the y-axis. So there's nothing special about price and being on the vertical axis. It just happens that that's kind of what I'm using for the examples here. So here's one perceptual positioning map. What I have is they've all maintained their price ranking, but now on the x-axis, we have newer brands on the right versus older brands on the left. So we can see Forever 21 is the newest brand and H&M is the oldest brand. And let me ask you guys, is this a good perceptual positioning map? So remember, to be good, the attributes that we chose should be informative, and they should be things that consumers care about. Not a good map. Why not? Not sure if people care about new or old. I would agree, right? For most people, they don't care when the brand was founded. It's more things about the aesthetic or the price or the quality or things like that, right? Not when it first started. So not useful. Why? Because consumers don't really care about this attribute. right? Here's another one then. So here we have price still on the y-axis, and then we have quality. So on the left, it's lowest quality, and I put H&M down there. And then going to the right, we have the highest quality, which is J.Crew. So this one, people care about price and they also care about quality. But I'm going to say this is not a great map either. Okay. So what's wrong with this map? Or what looks strange about this map? It says Forever 21 is cheaper than H&M. Okay, I'll update that next time I make these, or next time I present these. High quality, low price does not make sense. Agreed. So, when we look in the bottom right, we can see, there's a space here that's totally unoccupied, and that's because you can't really get a high quality at a low price. If you want a high quality, you need to use good materials and good workmanship, which is just hard to do and still make it cheap, right? So although this does tell us things that consumers care about, it's basically just a straight line, right? Because price and quality are linked very closely together. So this is not very informative, right? For us trying to maybe think of a new brand, it doesn't help to know that no one is making a really high quality, super low price thing, because we probably can't do that either, right? So here's the next one. And we have high price to low price. And then on the x-axis, now we have sort of more for outdoor adventures and then day-to-day life. We can see most of these brands are kind of the day-to-day life. So what's kind of not so great about this map? Yeah, the left side is kind of useless. So this doesn't highlight the differences. Yeah, there's no differentiation between the brands here. Exactly, we don't learn much. So here's a map that maybe we learn a bit more, right? So we have price still on the y-axis, and then on the x-axis, we have kind of more classic style clothes, and then more like fast fashion type clothes, right? So, there's other ways, there's other X variables that we could have chosen, other attributes. But here, this positioning map tells us who and where the competition is for two important attributes that people care about. And importantly, it kind of shows us places that maybe we could introduce a new product or brand, or how we can adjust our marketing strategy for an existing product or brand, right? So say we have our new brand in the upper left there, we can be deciding, okay, we want to make a new clothing brand, but what kind of clothing brand should it be? Potentially here, right? Here is fairly empty, a high price, and not too classic, but fairly classic, right? And of course, high price would probably come with high quality. So potentially that's a good place to enter. Or maybe down here, right? Maybe there's room for kind of classic style clothes, but at a more affordable price. Versus maybe we're analyzing H&M, and we can see H&M and Forever 21 are very, very close together. They're both low price, fast fashion. So maybe H&M would move a little bit more towards classic styled stuff if we're analyzing them. Or, if we're Forever 21, maybe we'd want to move up market a little bit and start charging higher prices. So when we create a perceptual map, here's what we want to do. We want to identify the category, identify the top players in the category, create a list of attributes that can be used to describe the brands, rate each brand on those attributes. And then once we've done all that, so what we'll have is kind of our list of brands and then all the attributes, and each brand will have a rating for each attribute. We identify the two attributes that we think are the most important and which are going to be things that consumers care about. They're going to avoid all the issues we saw with the first three maps, where they're informative, there's no redundant information, and the consumers actually care about the attributes. And then we'll plot the brands, right? So if we were going to do this exercise for chocolate candy bars, I've already kind of done the first step here, or the first two steps, which is we want to make a chocolate candy bar. And here are the top players. Here's the other brands and products that are kind of dominant in this space, right? So what is our next step? It's to come up with a list of attributes, right? So for this one, we can think, okay, there's lots of different attributes for chocolate candy bars. So I'll let you guys write some in chat as I talk a little bit. So kind of deciding on which attributes at this point, you just want to list as many as you can think of. Perfect. Sweet is good. So you have sweet milk chocolate, and then you have bitter dark chocolate. So you could go sweet to bitter, or kind of, yeah, like milk chocolate to dark chocolate. Shape, good. Price, yeah, always care about price. Shareability, great. So M&Ms is easy to share because they're all in little pieces. But Snickers is hard because it's just one solid bar. Calories, yeah, which age group is consuming them? So are they for kind of adults, or are they for kids? Taste, chocolate content. So how much chocolate versus how much other stuff like nuts or filling, right? So you have all these different attributes, and you pick them, you rank them, and then you plot it, right? So here, you know, we have just chocolate on the y-axis down to other stuff too, just to show you, you don't always need to have price, right? So here we have just chocolate to other things too. And then on the x-axis, we have chewy all the way to sort of crispy or crunchy. And here, this can tell us where we might want to enter, or if we're repositioning a brand, how we might want to move it. So in the last minute, the way to wrap up your entire positioning analysis is with a positioning statement. The positioning statement will say, who is your target segment, right? What is their reason to buy? What is your product or brand? And then, you know, what does your product kind of do? What's its point of parity relative to the other products in that space? And how does it differentiate itself from other brands, right? So, you know, if we wanted to do one for, say, Bumble, right, we would just incorporate all of the kind of analysis we already did, right? So two people who want to, so maybe two people with a smartphone who want to find a relationship. Bumble is the social networking app that empowers you to make healthy connections, something like that, right? So to the segment who have this particular need or reason to buy, this brand is the thing, is kind of an example of this product that also does this extra thing, right? Here's another example that you guys can look at for this brand Evernote, which is a content management tool. And one thing I would like you guys to do on your own time is create one for Subway, which is this fast food chain. Okay. All right, perfect. So sorry I kept you a little bit longer. So that's it. That's it for this class. So anything on this set of slides is testable for the midterm, but it kind of cuts off here. So it ends with positioning statements. So I'll stay online if you guys have any questions. The next time you guys can see me is office hours, which is on the syllabus. It's Monday from 4 to 6 p.m. on Zoom. So if you have questions about the midterm, feel free to come then, or about the practice problems. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the exam. So yeah, have a great Thanksgiving and a great fall break.